The rain-slicked streets of Portland gleamed under the sodium glow of streetlights as Jane Harper, 67, sat hunched over her phone, her heart hammering like a war drum. She'd only been in this city a week, lured from her cozy Seattle bungalow by her son Michael's promises of family closeness, of shared Sunday barbecues and laughter-filled evenings. But now, scrolling through Instagram on a night that felt too quiet, too heavy, she stumbled across a post that froze her blood. A young man, faceless behind a generic avatar, was crowdsourcing jobs for his newly retired mother, tutoring kids, scrubbing floors, working graveyard shifts, even commuting 3 hours each way. The comments were a firestorm. Your poor mom, decades of grinding, and now you want her slaving away? This is elder abuse dressed up as love. Jane's breath caught. The words hit too close, slicing open a wound she hadn't yet named. She'd come to Portland with dreams of her twilight years. Sipping coffee with Michael and his wife Emily, maybe planting a little herb garden behind their suburban split level. After 30 years teaching high school math, surviving budget cuts, parent-teacher conferences, and a divorce that left her raising Michael alone, Jane thought she'd earned it. She'd poured her soul into her son, late-night study sessions, scraping pennies for his college fund, even cashing out her $401K to help him buy this Portland house. But the Instagram post wasn't just a random stranger's cruelty. It felt like a mirror. Jane's hands trembled as she set the phone down, the glow of the screen casting shadows across the guest room's bare walls. Was this what Michael saw in her? Were course to be saddled again? Earlier that day, Jane had spent 2 grueling hours tutoring Liam, the 11-year-old son of Michael's boss, Mr. Carter. The kid was a tornado, defiant, rolling his eyes, tossing pencils when she explained fractions for the 10th time. "This is stupid," he'd snapped, slumping in his chair. Jane, whose patience had tamed countless classrooms, felt her temples throb. At 67, her energy wasn't what it used to be, and Liam's tantrums were a battle she hadn't signed up for. When the session ended, Mrs. Carter had swept in with a bright smile and a sleek gift bag. "Jane, you're a lifesaver," she'd cooed, pressing the bag into Jane's hands. "It's a new skincare line from my husband's company. You'll love it." Jane, still rattled, had frowned. "I thought Carter Tech made drones and smart home gadgets." Mrs. Carter's smile flickered, just for a second before she laughed it off. "Oh, they've branched out. Diversification, you know." But something in her tone, too smooth, too rehearsed, set Jane's nerves on edge. Then came the bombshell. "By the way, we're paying you $150, 0 cents an hour for Liam. Michael said you're worth every penny given your principal experience." Jane's stomach dropped. $150, 0 cents? Michael told me it was $50, 0 cents an hour, a favor to help his career. Mrs. Carter's eyebrow arched, her lips pursing like she'd tasted something sour. $50, 0 cents? Honey, no. Michael was clear. $150, 0 cents, and we paid him up front yesterday. Honestly, with your credentials, it's barely enough. The room spun. Jane's mind raced back to Michael's earnest plea a week ago, his voice soft and urgent over the phone. "Mom, Mr. Carter's desperate about Liam's grades. It's a critical time for my promotion. Could you tutor him? Just charge a little, like $50, 0 cents an hour as a favor?" She'd agreed, picturing herself as the supportive mom, the one who always came through. Now, standing in the Carter's marble-floored foyer, the gift bag felt like a bribe, a prop in a play she hadn't auditioned for. She mumbled an excuse, thrust the bag back, and fled, the Portland drizzle soaking her coat as she hurried to the bus stop. Back in the guest room, Jane's phone buzzed, snapping her out of the memory. A text from Michael. "Mom, Emily and I are slammed at work. Could you whip up dinner tonight? Something hearty, maybe your lasagna?" The request was so familiar, so routine it almost felt normal. But Jane's eyes drifted to the kitchen where she'd spent every evening since arriving, chopping, sautéing, scrubbing pans while Michael and Emily posted Instagram stories of their crazy busy lives. She scrolled back through their feeds, her chest tightening. Before she'd moved, their accounts were full of cozy date nights. Michael flipping pancakes, Emily beaming over homemade tacos, captions like, "Nothing beats cooking with my love." Now, suddenly they were too busy to boil water? Jane's fingers hovered over the reply. Normally she'd type, "Of course, sweetheart," and rush to the store, eager to fill the house with the smell of marinara and melted mozzarella. But tonight, something cracked. She thought of the Instagram post again, the son's casual cruelty, the mother reduced to a paycheck. Her pulse quickened as she typed, "Not feeling great tonight. You two grab takeout. I'll make myself a sandwich." The phone rang instantly. Michael's voice was frantic, edged with something sharper. "Mom, what's wrong? You okay? You have to be at the Carters tomorrow. Liam's test is next week and my promotion's on the line." Jane's grip tightened. "I'm not going, Michael. Tell your boss your mother's under the weather, permanently." "Mom, you can't do this." His tone shifted, almost accusing. "You're retired, you've got time. Why are you being like this?" The call ended with a click, Jane's thumb trembling as she powered off her phone. She sank onto the bed, still in her rain-damp coat, her heart pounding so hard she fumbled for her blood pressure pills. The guest room, with its generic IKEA lamp and beige curtains, felt like a cage. Had she made a mistake leaving Seattle? Her little house, with its creaky porch and rose bushes, had been her sanctuary. She'd sold it to move here to be close to family, as Michael had begged for months. "We need you, Mom. You won't be alone." But now, alone was exactly how she felt. Alone, used, and worst of all, betrayed. As she lay there, the rain tapping the window like a metronome, muffled voices drifted from the living room. Michael and Emily home earlier than they'd claimed. Jane's breath hitched. She cracked the door just enough to hear Emily's sharp whisper, "I told you, Michael, letting your mom move in was a bad idea. 6 months married and we're stuck with her? My co-worker's mother's-in-law cook, clean, babysit? Yours? She's already slacking." Michael's voice was softer, placating. "Babe, relax. She'll come around. We get her to sell the Seattle house, pay off our mortgage, and when the baby comes, she'll handle child care. No nanny, no tutor, no housekeeper. It's perfect." Jane's blood ran cold. Her house, worth $1,200,000, 0 cents in Seattle's booming market, was their endgame? Her retirement? Her savings? Her freedom all penciled into their financial spreadsheet? She clutched the doorframe, her knees weak, as the truth sank in. Michael, the boy she'd raised with every ounce of her heart, wasn't her protector. He was her predator. But there was something they didn't know, something Jane hadn't told anyone, not even her sister Laura. The Seattle house, the one they were banking on, wasn't sold yet. And if the rumors Laura had whispered about a tech giant's redevelopment plan were true, it was about to become worth a hell of a lot more than $1,200,000, 0 cents. Jane's lips curled into a grim smile. If Michael thought he could play her, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. Jane Harper stood frozen in the doorway of her son's Portland home, her heart a shattered mosaic. The muffled voices of Michael and Emily still echoed in her ears, their words slicing deeper than any knife. "Sell her Seattle house. Pay off our mortgage. She'll handle child care." Her fingers, still clutching the cracked guest room door, trembled with a fury she hadn't known she could feel. 30 years of sacrifice, nights spent grading papers while Michael slept, weekends working second jobs to fund his dreams, every penny of her savings poured into his future, had led to this betrayal. Not just a misunderstanding, but a calculated plan to strip her retirement bare. The Instagram post she'd seen hours ago, the one about a son exploiting his retired mother, wasn't a coincidence. It was a warning. Jane, 67, was done being naive. She crept back to the guest room, her breath shallow, her blood pressure spiking. Fumbling for her pills, she swallowed one dry, the bitter taste grounding her. The rain outside pounded harder, a relentless drumbeat matching her pulse. Michael and Emily thought they had her cornered. Dependent, pliable, a mother who'd always say yes. But they didn't know about the ace up her sleeve. Her Seattle house, still unsold, now rumored to be worth millions thanks to a tech giant's redeveloped. Jane's lips twitched into a grim smile. If Michael wanted to play predator, she'd show him just how fierce prey could be. The next morning, Jane rose before dawn, her body aching but her resolve ironclad. She packed her suitcase with mechanical precision. Cardigans, sensible shoes, the photo of her and Michael at his college graduation, the one she'd always cherished. She hesitated over the frame, her thumb tracing his younger, brighter smile. Could that boy really have become this man? Shaking her head, she tucked the photo away. Nostalgia was a luxury she couldn't afford, not today. Michael was already in the kitchen when she emerged, sipping coffee, his phone glowing with notifications. Emily, in yoga pants and a messy bun, was scrolling Instagram, her face lit by the screen's cold light. They looked so normal, so suburban, like any young couple chasing the American dream. But Jane saw the truth now. Their dream was built on her bones. "Mom, you're up early," Michael said, his tone casual, but his eyes flicked to her suitcase. "Going somewhere?" Jane set the case by the door, her voice steadied despite the storm inside. "I'm going back to Seattle. I made a mistake coming here." Emily's head snapped up, her smile faltering. "Seattle? Diana, you just got here. We're family. You can't just leave." "Family doesn't lie, Emily," Jane said, her gaze locking onto Michael. "Family doesn't pocket $100, 0 cents an hour from their mother's work and tell her it's $50, 0 cents. Michael's coffee mug froze halfway to his lips. "What are you talking about?" "Don't," Jane snapped, her voice cutting through the morning quiet. "Mrs. Cotta told me everything. You took $150, 0 cents an hour for my tutoring and lied to my face. You used me, Michael, and that's not even the worst of it." Emily's eyes widened, but Michael recovered quickly, his face smoothing into that charming grin Jane had once adored. "Mom, you're blowing this out of proportion. I was going to tell you. The Carters insisted on paying more because you're so experienced. I was holding the extra as a surprise to treat you to something nice." Jane laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "A surprise? Like selling my Seattle house to pay off your $800,000 0 cents mortgage? Or expecting me to raise your kid so you don't have to hire a nanny? I heard you last night, Michael. You and Emily, planning to bleed me dry." The kitchen went silent, the only sound the drip of the coffee maker. Emily's face paled, her phone clattering to the counter. Michael's grin vanished, replaced by a flash of panic. "Mom, you're twisting things. We were just talking, brainstorming. We'd never—" "Stop lying." Jane's voice cracked like a whip, startling even herself. She stepped forward, her hands shaking with rage. "I was going to give you the proceeds from my house, Michael. $1,200,000, 0 cents, to help with your mortgage, to give you and Emily a head start. I sold my dreams for you, and you turned me into a cash machine." Michael's jaw dropped, but before he could speak, Jane's hand moved on instinct. The slap echoed, sharp and final, his cheek blooming red. Emily gasped, clutching the counter, but Jane felt no regret, only a strange, liberating clarity. "You're selfish, Mom," Michael spat, rubbing his cheek, his voice low and venomous. "Parents sacrifice for their kids. That's what you're supposed to do. But you just want to sit around, sipping tea, while we drown in bills." Emily nodded, crossing her arms. "He's right, Jane. We're struggling. You're retired, healthy, with all this time. What's wrong with helping out? Every mom does it." Jane stared at them, her heart a frozen wasteland. "Helping out? You mean working myself into an early grave so you can post your perfect life on Instagram?" "I'm done." She grabbed her suitcase, her voice steady now. "I'm going home. To Seattle. You won't see me again." Michael sneered, blocking her path to the door. "Go ahead, run, but don't come crying back when you're lonely, Mom. You're guilt-tripping us, and it won't work." Jane pushed past him, her shoulder brushing his, and stepped into the rain. The door slammed behind her, the sound final, like a gavel. She didn't look back. The bus to the train station was cold and empty, the city a blur of gray. Her phone buzzed. Michael, Emily, relatives. But she ignored them. At the station, she bought a ticket to Seattle, her hands steady despite the ache in her chest. As she sank into the train seat, her phone rang again. This time it was Laura, her sister. "Jane, thank God." Laura's voice was breathless. "You haven't sold your house, have you?" "Don't. The whole neighborhood's about to be bought out by a tech giant for a new campus. They're offering at least $1,500,000, 0 cents per property." Jane's breath caught, a spark of hope piercing the fog. $1,500,000. 0 cents. "Are you sure?" "Positive. It's still hush-hush, but my friend at City Hall spilled." "You're sitting on a gold mine, sis." Jane hung up, a smile breaking through her exhaustion. The house, her modest 1,970 bungalow with its peeling paint and overgrown roses, was her lifeline. She hadn't sold it, despite Michael's pressure, and now it was her ticket to freedom. The train rumbled north, carrying her back to Seattle, to a life she could reclaim. In Seattle, Jane's days took on a quiet rhythm. She moved back into her bungalow, the familiar creak of the floorboards a comfort. She ignored the family group chat, the voicemails from cousins urging her to make peace with Michael. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip. Jane abandoned her son, just up and left. But she let it slide. Solitude was her sanctuary now. She cooked for one, read novels on the porch, and started pottery classes at the community center, her hands shaping clay into something new, something hers. But the nights were harder. Sleepless, Jane lay awake, haunted by Michael's betrayal. Had she failed him as a mother? Had she been too soft, too giving? The questions gnawed at her, stealing sleep, leaving her hollow. She'd check her phone, tempted to unblock him, to call and ask why. But she never did. Instead, she'd pour herself into her hobbies, her fingers stained with clay, her heart slowly mending. 2 weeks later, the family group chat exploded. Michael posted a sonogram, his message dripping with performative joy. "Big news, everyone! Emily's pregnant. Our family's growing. Thanks for all your love." The replies flooded in. "Congrats, Jane. A grandbaby already. You must be thrilled. Moving to Portland was worth it." Jane stared at the screen, her stomach twisting. A grandchild. A new life. Her heart softened for a moment, imagining a tiny hand in hers. But then she saw Michael's follow-up. "Mom's been quiet. Guess she's still adjusting to retirement." Eh? Adjusting? Jane's blood boiled. He was painting her as the distant, grumpy retiree, not the mother he'd exploited. Relatives piled on, their messages sharp with judgment. "Jane, Don't hold a grudge. Families fight. Go back to Portland. Emily's pregnant. You should be there. Jane's fingers hovered over the keyboard, but she didn't reply. Let them think what they wanted. She was done performing. Then, one rainy Seattle evening, her doorbell rang. Jane opened it to find Michael, soaked to the bone, his face a mask of contrition. He carried grocery bags, the kind he knew she loved, organic produce, her favorite dark chocolate. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I messed up. I was under so much pressure. Work, the mortgage, Emily. I lost my head. Please, come back to Portland." Jane stood rigid, her hand on the doorframe. "Why are you here, Michael? What do you want?" He stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "You're my mom. I need you. Emily's pregnant and we're drowning. I was wrong about the tutoring money. I took it, okay? I admit it. But I was going to pay you back." Jane's laugh was bitter. "Pay me back? You lied to my face, Michael. You posted online, advertising me like some hired help. I saw it. The Instagram post, the one about finding jobs for your retired mom. That was you." Michael's face crumpled, but he recovered quickly. "Mom, that was a mistake. I was venting, trying to get advice. I didn't mean for it to go viral. Please, let's start over." Jane's eyes narrowed. "Start over? Then tell me why you're really here. What's the catch?" He hesitated, then his voice dropped, almost a whisper. "Emily's feeling insecure about the house. It's in my name from before we married. She was hoping you'd hand over your pension card just to cover some prenatal costs. Baby stuff, you know." Jane's vision blurred with rage. Her penchant, her lifeline, earned through decades of teaching, was their next target? She raised her hand, and the slap rang out, sharper than the first. Michael staggered back, clutching his cheek, his eyes wide with shock. "Mom, how could I?" Jane's voice trembled, but her resolve was steel. "You ungrateful child. I gave you everything, my savings, my home, my heart, and you stand here asking for more? Get out!" Michael's shock turned to anger, his face flushing red. "You're out of line, Mom. I came to apologize and you hit me. You think you're some saint because you raised me? Every mom does that. You owe me, not the other way around." Jane's heart chattered, but her voice stayed cold. "Owe you? I owe you nothing. You're not my son anymore." She grabbed the grocery bags and hurled them onto the porch, the chocolate bars scattering in the rain. "Get out, and don't come back." Michael pounded on the door, shouting her name, cursing, but Jane locked it and leaned against it, her breath ragged. When his voice finally faded, she sank to the floor, tears burning her eyes. She'd never hit him before, not in his childhood, not through his rebellious teens. She'd believed in patience, in love, but this was a wound too deep to forgive. The next morning, Jane woke to a nightmare. Michael had posted online, a scathing rant on Instagram. "My mother, Jane Harper. The beloved retired teacher abandoned her family. She's selfish, heartless, and I'm done." The post went viral, amplified by local Portland influencers. Neighbors whispered as Jane walked to her pottery class. "That's her, the one who ditched her pregnant daughter-in-law." Her phone buzzed with messages from relatives. "Jane, how could you? Michael's your only son." The isolation was suffocating, her reputation as a teacher tarnished overnight. But Jane wasn't finished. She opened the family group chat and dropped a bomb. A link to Michael's original Instagram post, the one advertising her for jobs. She added screenshots of his comments, each one annotated with the truth, how he'd lied about her tutoring pay, how he'd planned to sell her house. Then she uploaded surveillance footage from her Seattle home, installed years ago after a break-in. The video showed Michael's visit, His groveling, his demand for her pension card, his vicious accusations. The chat went silent. Even the nosiest aunts had no reply. Michael and Emily left the group chat within hours, their silence deafening. Relatives began texting Jane privately, apologizing, condemning Michael's greed. Jane didn't respond. She was done with their judgment, their meddling. She turned off her phone and threw herself into her new life: pottery, jazz classes, hikes along Seattle's rugged trails. Her hands grew strong, shaping clay, her heart lighter with every sunrise. The neighborhood gossip faded, replaced by the quiet respect of her new friends, retirees like her who valued freedom over obligation. Then came the news that changed everything. Laura called, her voice trembling with excitement. "Jane, the tech campus deal is final. Your house, it's now valued at $1,800,000, 0 cents. You're set for life." Jane's heart soared. $1,800,000, 0 cents. Enough to live lavishly, to travel, to never worry again. She met with a lawyer the next day, drafting a will that left every penny to Seattle's foster care programs. Michael would get nothing. Her duty as a mother had ended the moment he'd seen her as a paycheck. Life felt full again, until the jazz studio incident. Jane was mid-step, swaying to a sultry saxophone, when a woman stormed in, her voice a screech. "Jane Harper, you heartless witch!" It was Karen, Emily's mother, her face twisted with rage. "My daughter's pregnant, crying every day in Portland while you danced like some carefree widow." Jane froze, the music fading to a hum. Her dance partner, a retired firefighter named Tom, stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, you need to leave now." Karen scoffed, pointing at Jane. "You abandoned your family. Michael begged you to help and you ran off to play artist. Shame on you." The studio erupted, Jane's friends surging forward, their voices a chorus of outrage. But then another voice cut through. Emily, leaning against the wall, her pregnant belly just visible. Michael stood beside her, his face dark with fury. "So this is it, Mom," he spat. "You ditched us for some old guy and your pottery? You're giving my inheritance to him, aren't you?" Emily's tone was icy. "We're not against you dating, Jane, but we need to protect you. Hand over your house and pension. Let us manage it. For your safety." Jane's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Safety? The only danger in my life is you two. You've lied, manipulated, and now you're here, in front of my friends, demanding my money? Get out." The confrontation ended with Michael, Emily, and Karen slinking away, their faces burning under the studio's judgmental stares. But they weren't done. The next morning, Jane arrived at the jazz studio to find Nightmare, a massive banner draped across the entrance, screaming in red letters, "Jane Harper, family deserter and gold digger." Posters plastered the walls, vile and defamatory, accusing her of seducing Tom for her money. Passers-by gawked, snapping photos, the scandal spreading online. Tom, her dance partner, collapsed from the stress, his heart faltering. Jane rode with him to the hospital, her hand shaking as paramedics worked. He survived, but the attack on her reputation was a wound that wouldn't heal. She called the police, who traced the stunt to Michael, Emily, and Karen. They were arrested within hours, Emily released due to her pregnancy, but Michael and Karen detained for 7 days. Jane didn't stop there. She emailed Michael's employer, detailing how he'd manipulated her into tutoring Liam to curry favor. The company, horrified, terminated him that day. Michael's career, his Portland dream, crumbled overnight. After the legal battles, Jane made a choice. She sold her Seattle house for $1,800,000, 0 cents. The tech deal finalized, and moved to a coastal Oregon town. She bought a charming cottage with a sunlit yard, surrounded by friends, widows, divorcees, lifelong bachelorettes. They cooked, laughed, planted herbs, and danced under the stars. Michael and Emily, meanwhile, lost their Portland home to foreclosure, hounded by debt collectors, their lives a cautionary tale of greed. Jane stood on her cottage porch, the Pacific Ocean glinting in the distance. She was free, not just from Michael's schemes, but from the weight of obligation. She'd learned the hardest lesson: love isn't owed, it's earned. And at 67, she was finally living for herself. The chapter's lessons resonate for Western audiences: the value of self-reliance, the courage to cut toxic ties, and the power of reclaiming one's worth. Jane's journey, from betrayal to triumph, offers inspiration, showing that retirement isn't the end, but a new beginning. The suspense of Michael's escalating schemes, the moral conflict of disowning a child, and the catharsis of Jane's victory keep readers hooked, while cultural details, Instagram drama, suburban pressures, tech boom wealth, ground the story in a relatable American context.